Tzitzit. I was going to say someone else could do this. Okay, I could do it. So for tzitzit, Numbers 15, verse 38 and 39, speak unto the children of Israel and bid them that they make them throughout their generations fringes in the corner of their garments. And it shall be unto you for a fringe, that ye may look upon it and remember all the commandments of the Lord and do them. And so these fringes are on four-cornered garments. So halakhically, men are not required to wear a four-cornered garment with tzitzit all day long. It's not a requirement, but it like we said, it's praiseworthy to do so. And if you are wearing a four-corner garment, it should have tzitzit on the corners. Sometimes you may come across people wearing tzitzit in different ways. I don't want to point at any specific negative way. It's just not the right way. The right way is on a four-cornered garment. So the perfect example was the Tallit Gadol that Rabbi Atzel was showing us. It's just this, a big square garment, a square garment, and it has like little fringes on the corners. And there's also like other little fringes, little ruffles, or I don't know what you call them, but those are not necessarily the fringes. Those are just kind of decorative. The actual fringes are the tzitzit coming off the end. They're made of 8 strings. You wind them. There's different windings. There's different ways to wind the strings and knot the strings to keep them on your tallit. And I don't, there's just many different, there's at least 8 different ways. There's probably more than that to knot them. So I'm not going to go through all the different ways. And there's also, we also will wear a tallit katan, which is a smaller version of the tallit that you wear over. Usually has a hole in the cut in the middle of it, so you could put it over your head, and it goes on the front of you and behind you. But it is also not necessarily a perfect square, but it's like a rectangular garment that has these corners on it, and then also have tzitzit on the ends there. So I guess another minimum requirement is to if you're not required to wear a four-corner garment, but it is
Hasidim do it all day long.
Hasidim, the Hasidim will always wear their at least tallit katan all day long, and you take it off. You don't wear it at night. You don't wear it at night. It's something throughout the day. It's a daily day
swimming in the gym.
Yeah, and also if your tzitzit are going to get dirty, or if your employment is something that you get dirty, like an auto mechanic or something like that, you may want to make sure whatever it's very tucked in, very so there's not getting dirty or
dangerous
or danger, that kind of things. Oftentimes, if I'm going to get very sweaty doing something that's just not going to be good for my tzitzit or good for the garment itself, I just don't wear it. I take it off and go do my yard work or whatever it is, just to keep the garment nice, and you don't need to do that. And another thing is if you can't wear a tallit katan all the time, at least wear your tallit for prayer. It's very common. It's extremely common to wear your Tallit Gadol during your morning prayer service. And if you can't wear it for the morning, you could also wear it later on for Micha, just as long as it's during the day. These are both daytime commandments, because when the commandment it says, and you shall look, when you should look upon these things, look upon your tzitzit, look upon your tefillin. It's the sages have said, you can only look during the day, because at nighttime it's too dark to see. So that's why they make it into a daytime mitzvah, a daytime mitzvah. And so that's what we do. And I guess the final thing about tzitzit is the tekhelet in the tzitzit, and
Blue.
this is kind of a new thing, relatively new, where they have discovered, um, well, rediscovered
Kosher tekhelet.
the way they made that blue to put on and in the tekhelet in the tzitzit, and it's called tekhelet. And actually, the Breslov they found another one even further back, that they've been doing for quite a long time. So now I think they do. I think they may do both. I know some Breslov do the tekhelet that I have chosen to do, but I think others have chosen this other version. I can't remember the exact names for each one of them, but there's
One
these.
is a cuttlefish
One is from a cuttlefish, one is from a snail, and there's different ways
to
and
make the blue.
to make that blue dye.
What about lapis lazuli?
What's that?
That's a mineral. I don't think they were dyeing cloth with that, right?
Yeah, I'm not
Oh.
sure. I'm not sure of that, but this is just the one that I've learned about. There might be others, but and not I don't think all Breslov wear blue, but I think a lot of them do or have
Out
been
of all the
adopting them.
sects, yeah, they do the most.
And but there's also some views of if you don't know the right color dye, then you shouldn't use the blue because you don't know the right color dye. So there's kind of controversy around this
That's the
topic.
majority of them.
And yeah, the majority in view. And then also it's very costly, and maybe you may not be able to afford this
Kosher
this
tekhelet.
kosher tekhelet. But our Breslov rabbi has taught us that it's better to have tekhelet, any tekhelet, whether it's kosher or even if it's just artificial dye blue or whatever. He just feels that it's more important that the blue should be in the tzitzit than just have it all white. So that's his view. I pretty much agree with him. Agree with him on that.
But you only use the kosher.
But I'm able to buy the kosher one, so I use the kosher one.
But you also don't judge.
But I wouldn't judge anybody who would. Yeah, exactly. So I mean that's with tzitzit, and then that's another thing is that tzitzit is on a four-corner garment. It's not necessarily only for men, but it has become that men pretty much only wear it because they're required to pray at certain prayer times, and they're required to so then they don their tallits. So it's become more of a male garment, but there are female versions of Tallit Gadol, and maybe even Tallit Katan. I'm not sure, but I don't have there's nothing wrong with women wanting to wear that, to have to don tzitzit, but at least in our group there's nothing wrong. I'm sure there's some rabbis out there that will say it's wrong, like they're trying to take a man's garment, but in the Mishnah there's nothing wrong.
Yeah, in the Talmud, there's a story of a rabbi who believed that even women should wear tzitzit, and so he would make even his maid servants, his female servants, he would make them wear tzitzit on their aprons, their four-cornered aprons. The rabbi of Machon Shiloh, his name escapes me now, but he's friends with our Breslov rabbi, or they were friends. I don't think they've been friends for a long time. I mean, they don't really talk anymore. They're not enemies or anything, but what his view is that it's not forbidden for women to wear don tefillin or wear a talit or tzitzit, but as long as they're doing it for the right reasons, as long as they're doing it because they want to draw close to Hashem, not because they're trying to push feminism, which is unfortunately something that is done by more I don't know, how do you call it?
Conservative groups, reform.
I guess reform, or they call them progressive. Just the non-Orthodox, not more non-traditional Jews, and it's more about like women's rights, really, than about drawing close to Hashem. So I think that's a good balanced view, saying like we don't have to it's not wrong, because there's examples in the Talmud, but it's also make sure you're doing it for the right reason.
Can I speak on Tzitzit?
Yeah, hell yeah, definitely.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you all hear me?
Yep.
Yes, we can hear you.
Sorry.
Okay, I wanted to speak on Tzitzit. It's one of the few Torah commandments, mitzvah, that is from a cause and effect, right? So the story is that Zelophehad, the man who had the 5 daughters who fought for the rights to have a property, he was caught picking up sticks, and for whatever reason, he was very brazen in this, and he was sentenced to death. And Hashem, in that, said, from this point on, you should wear the tzitzit as a remembrance, something you should see. And so, there's some people that through persecution they tuck, and that's their tradition to tuck their tzitzit. But the commandment was to have your tzitzit to where it shows. So it should, if you have it, it should be shown so you can look at it and you remember the mitzvot. Actually, the tradition that we still have today, where people would tie a string around your finger, right, comes from tzitzit. There was a time when, several times, probably dozens of times, when we couldn't appear to be outwardly Jewish. We couldn't have prayer books. We couldn't wear tzitzit. We couldn't, do tefillin. We could, couldn't study Torah, and so we would take a tzitzit and we would tie it around our finger or put it in our pocket. And we would constantly be rubbing it, or so it would be a remembrance. And so we're left with this thing. Oh, what's the string? Oh, it's a string around my finger. Does it help me remember? But they never say what it's to remember. It's to remember the tzitzit. So the main thing is it's a vehicle so that we remember to do the mitzvot, right? It's kind of hard to be angry in traffic when you got, tzitzit. When you look down, you go, oh, okay, I'm wearing tzitzit. I need to be more patient, or, it should be a catalyst to be a good Jew, either the way we're carrying ourselves or inwardly and outwardly. So I know my daughter will be. She can see seat a mile away, right? She says, "Oh, there's seat. No, that's a string from a sweatsuit." She's always looking for seat, right? It's one of our identifiers, right?
That's true.
And so Baruch Hashem, that Hashem made this vehicle, especially for us men to be able to remember, to be able to constantly be in our face and be mindful of the mitzvot.
Thank you.
On that, on the idea of that the tzitzit is supposed to be something visible. But however, from what our Sephardic rabbis, who in the Sephardic culture, is they do a lot of things differently from Ashkenazim, because they were heavily persecuted and forced to convert to Catholicism. And so there are many Sephardim, in the Spanish conquered lands, that they are not used to wearing tzitzit out. They're used to tucking in tzitzit because of great persecution. And so I think it's a valid point also, even though they should be outside. I know sometimes, like my husband, if we're going to go into a Muslim area, and it could potentially be dangerous to let people know that you're a Jew, sometimes he will wear a different hat on top of his kippah, or tuck in his tzitzit. I also have a friend in Spain who says that it's very dangerous there also to identify as a Jew. They can physically harm you. And also in France, I heard that there were some French Jews who, they lived in near Muslim communities, and it was dangerous for them to wear kippah. So what they would do is they would wear a wig that looks like a kippah. No, excuse me. They would wear a hair piece that looks like a wig, I guess, or it looks like regular hair, and that would be their kippah. That would be their head covering, much like how many Orthodox Jewish Hasidic women will wear a wig instead of a head covering, so as not, one reason is to not stick out really, and to not be persecuted for being Jewish. And I used to not really believe in that. I used to not believe in wigs until October 7th happened, and the political climate became such that we had one friend who went to the gym, and some other gym members found out that he was Jewish, and they just started arguing with him. They started yelling really loudly and kind of threatening, like, let's fight, at the gym, because he knew that he was Jewish. Now, this was even before October 7th. It got that tense, so after October 7th, I really didn't feel safe openly, being obvious that I was Jewish, because, I had my children, there's a lot of Muslims where we live, and I wanted to, avoid possible conflict, So I think that's also valid. I think there's a time and a season for being bold, and there's a time and a season for just self-preservation and protecting yourself. And that's what a lot of Benei Anasim did for a very long time. They hid their Jewishness, and they pretended to be Catholic to just survive, and there's stories. We heard one Benei Anasim man, he said that in his family, they had this, on this doorway, that they had this idol of Mary right on the doorway. And every time the relative would walk in, she would kiss it and whisper something, and then kiss her hand again, just like we do the mezuzah, And then when he visited his old home before they tore it down because it was old, he found out there's a mezuzah right there where the idol was. So she wasn't really kissing the idol. She was really kissing the mezuzah that was hidden inside the doorpost.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a time for.
I think you have to kind of balance, life versus tradition,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Life over law sometimes.
Right. So I mean, this is a kind of a hard discussion, because our Ashkenazi brothers have basically obliterated the souls of, especially the souls of the English expulsion, right? And it was in direct advice of our sages at the time of, oh no, you should go into hiding, and you should just go with the moment, and just hide your Judaism, and basically the rabbis now say, well, because they hid, their souls were, they were just lost, right? Their children were taken in by the goyim, and their souls were, and part of my impetus would be like, I don't want that to happen, right? Maybe it comes from the Christian background that I had, where Christians are and striving to always be a martyr or whatever, but you do have to balance that life, but at the same time, we've seen what history did. History basically said, now the rabbis today, I don't know if because they're gatekeeping or what, but they said, that's what Hashem willed. They didn't stand up for the faith. They didn't take their children with them. They allowed the English to, and so what happened was the English came in. They said, you can leave. You can go to France. You can go to Spain. You can go to Eastern Europe. We don't care. Just get out. But we're going to keep the kids, right? It's one of our expulsions that happened in England. And the rabbis now say, well, they should have stood up for their children, and that happened within our Spanish brothers. It happened with our Portuguese brothers, and so we have to balance that line of, because this has effects within the generations. If we say, well, we're afraid to, or not necessarily afraid to wear a kippah or whatever, our enemies are always saying, well, we're going to move the line. Well, okay, well, we can't do the Torah because somebody may see us. So there's got to be eventually, and that's thankfully what we have the nation of Israel or the land of Israel, that we can at least start the process of saying, no, we're Jewish, and this is the stance. Maybe because I'm just too old and surly about it, or I feel old, and I'm like, no, I'm going to stand up for my generation. Maybe with my wife and my daughter with me, I'll be like, okay, I can temper it. So anyways, I see and I care about the souls and the sparks that exist that are being denied, and it's because of the directions, So I didn't mean to sidetrack us, but I do. Yeah. So it's a sore subject.
I think I don't like to judge what happens in the afterlife to souls. If someone says that a soul was obliterated because people did this or that, I'm just going to say you don't know that. I don't like people judging people that way, but I do feel that certain people in certain times will have certain convictions, and it depends on your faith. It depends on your faith. It depends on what you feel Hashem is calling you to do, and I don't think people should be pressured into doing something that may potentially harm them. I think if they want to take that stand of bravery for Hashem, it should come from within them, not from societal pressure. Yeah, I think that's the most important thing, and certainly life over law. Pikuach nefesh, Hashem would rather us live to keep more commandments than die for one, except for adultery, murder, and idolatry. Is that right? Idolatry, adultery, and murder. Yes, those are the three exceptions that you should not engage in,
even if it means death,
at any cost. Right, at any cost. Okay. So let's go to the next one.